The Health Secretary Wes Streeting says it's time to listen to women after Good Morning Britain's July investigation led by Vicky Pattison uncovered how millions of women have suffered from medical misogyny in the National Health Service.
Well, it took TV presenter and campaigner Vicky years to get answers about her own diagnosis. Here she is now speaking to other women who were made to feel it's all in their head.
Medical misogyny is the term used when women's health issues, such as premenstrual dysphoric disorder, endometriosis and adenomyosis, are overlooked, dismissed and not taken seriously by medical professionals.
I had migraines, I had really terrible cramps, I had a low mood, and because of the physical symptoms I had to miss university sometimes, miss lectures, miss work. I didn't know what it was, I didn't know what to call it, and I didn't get much help when I went to the doctors.
My painful period started at 10. I was then diagnosed with endometriosis 23 years later when I was 32, and then it's taken from 32 to 44, so another 12 years to get an adenomyosis.
Throughout the time there was language that was used that convinced me that it was in my head, and I started not to believe myself and not to believe my physical symptoms.
And Vicky joins us now. I mean, we've spoken about this before, and you are so passionate and knowledgeable about this. You've taken the message to the centre of power, to the guy who runs the National Health Service, Wes Streeting, and I think we should play that clip again. It sounds like he was listening.
I want to make sure that Vicky is involved in the development of our renewed women's health strategy, that we're taking up Good Morning Britain's campaign for real practical change. The NHS needs to listen to women. Needs to listen to women when they're describing pain and symptoms, be more curious in order to get a diagnosis.
There are so many politicians who never, ever quite managed to have an impact in their careers, and it feels like you have had an impact with your campaign.
Oh, gosh, that's such a nice thing to hear you say, Ed. I was really honoured to meet with Wes yesterday, you know, and I'm really passionate about making change within this space, helping women, offering them a better quality of life when they are suffering with female reproductive health issues. I felt like Wes was really receptive to everything I said. He explained that he'd had a family member experience medical misogyny, and I don't know whether that's the thing that's tipped the scales or what, but I felt listened to, I felt understood, I felt heard, and subsequently I feel really positive after our meeting about the things we can achieve together.
That's really good, because when we look at sort of the filming that you did with those other women who'd been affected by this, and I think for those people who don't understand what it means, for a lot of women it just means, you know, maybe they don't get the right diagnosis for a long time, they don't quite know what's going on, what the reason behind it is, and that can have such a severe impact on their life, can't it?
Of course. So I met with Rachel, Monica and Kelly over the course of the summer for the incredible film I made with you guys. And whereas their stories were all different, the things they are struggling with are different female reproductive health issues, there is one common thread, and that is that when they go and visit the NHS, a doctor, whatever, they are ignored, dismissed, in some way made to feel like this is in their head, they are hysterical. And that is the medical misogyny that we're trying to tackle, you know? And all of these women, their quality of life has been significantly affected. These conditions are debilitating and heartbreaking, and they're affecting 3 in 5 women in the UK. Like, this isn't something we can ignore anymore.
No. And I think it really stood out for me when they were saying to you things like, you know, education they'd missed out on, or work opportunities, career issues they'd missed out on. And in some cases it affected, you know, whether people could have families or not, because they just didn't understand what was going on. And that's, you know, that's a major thing in their life that's happened because of it.
Absolutely. Like, having a female reproductive health issue is debilitating enough as it is, but being left sort of in limbo and not understanding what's going on, like, something like that has a long tail. It has huge ramifications on your mental health. And that is something that isn't talked about enough. But it was something that Wes seemed very passionately about tackling head on.
Good. It was, of course, it was a private meeting.
What?
We saw you arriving at the health department. We saw Wes's interview afterwards. We heard you talking about it. But in that private meeting, as far as you can, what did you say to him is the thing he's got to do? And what did he say he needs you to do to make that happen?
So I said what we need is it needs better funding. We need to close that gender gap completely in terms of female reproductive health. I said we also need better education and training for people within the NHS, medical professionals, better mental health support for women struggling, and also just more research, you know. And he said he was going to go direct to the people who are dealing with the funding, address that. Honestly, when I tell you he seemed proactive, I know I'm not exactly used to doing stuff like this, and maybe I'm a bit naive. And I'm sure his job is like pushing water uphill with a fork sometimes, but I felt like he made some promises and he's determined to keep them to me.
Do you know what the key thing is? I had kind of lots of times, including doing a job like his, where I had people like you coming in doing reports and campaigns. My advice is you should always say, I'm going to come back and see you again in 6 months' time, and you're going to tell me whether you've delivered. And if you don't invite me back, I'm then going to come on Good Morning Britain and say, why aren't they delivering?
Isn't it?
Because you've got to hold him to account. He's got to just not have good words. What is his actions? In 6 months' time, is it making a difference?
Okay.
That's what you've got to do.
OK, well, I'm going to drop him a message and say that.
Right.
You will do now.
I will do now.
The civil servants will all be saying, oh, Minister, I mean, surely you've done the meeting. Do you really need another meeting? And, you know, they might ask difficult questions. That's the point.
That's the point.
Go back in 6 months' time and say, you promised me these things. Where's the evidence?
I'm going to hold him accountable. I will.
It's really important. And if he's good, which I think he is, he'll want that.